Only in the last couple of months, Toyota had a couple of massive recalls that affected hundreds of thousands of vehicles that were produced relatively recently. Interestingly, a lot of them refer to body-on-frame vehicles, including the all-new Tacoma, which made us wonder if Toyota still is what it used to be, the most reliable car maker in the world. The new Toyota Tacoma has a huge problem, so make sure to stay with us and find out more about this unexpected set of circumstances. 381,000 recalled for rear axle issues. One of the biggest recalls we've seen in Toyota's recent history happened in February, and interestingly, it's related to the previous generation Tacoma model. We say interestingly because no one expected such an outcome. Even though it was already clear that the new generation would be coming soon, sales of the previous generation never slowed down. The logic was pretty simple. That pickup was getting close to the end of its production cycle, so customers believed that all issues, and there weren't many of them, were solved. However, it turned out that new problems could occur even in such a late stage of a production cycle. Back in February, Toyota recalled 381,000 Tacomas produced in 2022 and 2023 for a pretty strange problem. No, there were no powertrain or software issues. This recall was about potential problems with the rear axles, a problem that could increase the risk of a crash. It turned out that welding wasn't done properly, and the debris left on the rear axle could cause rotating nuts to loosen over time. Eventually, they could fall off, causing a part to separate from the axle. In other words, there was a big risk of affecting stability and braking performance. Of course, that would lead to a massive risk of crashing. Thankfully, Toyota reacted quickly and started notifying owners. The company offered a solution in which dealers would inspect the rear axle and retighten the retaining nuts. In case the axle parts were damaged, Toyota would repair or replace the axle at no cost. Transmission issues. After being long overdue, Toyota finally started updating its body-on-frame lineup 2 years ago. Those redesigns of models like the Tundra, Sequoia, and LX600 brought significant improvements in terms of performance, efficiency, and overall refinement. But they did bring a couple of issues as well. Namely, Toyota recalled over 280,000 models based on a TNGA-F platform because of a design flaw in the transmission. The key concern was that these vehicles may, according to Toyota, inadvertently creep forward at low speed when in neutral. It turned out that certain parts of the transmission wouldn't disengage when shifted to neutral, which would allow power to be transferred to the wheels. Obviously, this brought a whole new issue in terms of crash concern. The recall includes Tundra and Lexus LX, 600 models produced between 2022 and 2024, and Sequoia produced in 2023 and 2024. Even though Toyota never specified the exact part of the transmission that was problematic, experts believe it's a software issue rather than a mechanical problem, which is the main reason why we think this issue could be transferred to the new Tacoma. Even though it doesn't use the aforementioned 10-speed transmission, but rather an 8-speed automatic, at this point it's still early. But the fact is, even the previous generation super reliable Tacoma had a few software issues with its transmission. The initial model years also had problems with its 6-speed transmission, especially during changes from park to reverse or drive. Slow response and sudden changes brought certain safety concerns, and while Toyota engineers managed to solve this issue, they never addressed one of the main complaints about the previous generation Tacoma, which referred to the constant hunt for the right gear. Toyota justified this with claims that the transmission was optimized for better fuel economy, but in reality, it was a bit different because this was a bit of a compromise in terms of the driving experience. With such a history, many owners are worried about the performance of the new transmission, especially if we consider that it uses very similar software to the 10-speed unit from the Tacoma's bigger siblings. Powertrain concerns. Another interesting aspect of the new Tacoma that could potentially bring problems is the powertrain. Namely, the recent redesign was one of the most radical in Tacoma's history, and engine options played a massive part in it. The previous generation was praised for its super durable and reliable engines. While the 3.5-liter V6 had a few minor problems in the initial model year, it turned out to be an exceptionally reliable unit. On the other hand, the good old 2.7-liter inline-4 never disappointed, and today it is widely considered one of the best engines Toyota has ever made, famous for its bulletproof design. In other words, Toyota's powertrain was the most reliable in the class, and the secret was in their simple design. These engines don't feature a turbocharger or any other kind of forced induction. They're pretty simple with a minimal number of potential problems. Well, things changed with the recent redesign. In a quest for ultimate performance, or better say the urgent need to keep up with the competition, Toyota was forced to make a radical change. It was time for forced induction, and that brought the new 2.4-liter Turbo 4, which replaced both engines and now comes in two output variants, either 227 or 277 horsepower. Sure, the new engine brought massive improvements in terms of torque and efficiency, but still, traditional Toyota fans are not delighted with the fact that their powertrain has just gotten more complicated. With more parts, the risk of potential problems increases, even though we're talking about the most reliable car maker in the world. Moreover, Toyota decided to make things even more complicated in a way that it also introduced a hybrid version. And no, this time we're not talking about Toyota's traditional hybrid powertrains with CVT transmission, which is so simple that there really is nothing that could go wrong with it. No, this hybrid system is more complex, with turbocharged engines and way more components compared to those systems that power models like the Prius. Software issues. Modern cars bring modern problems, and currently that often refers to software issues. And no, we're not talking about ECU malfunctions and things like that. We're talking about problems that are essentially minor, but still impact convenience and the overall driving experience a lot. It all started when Toyota launched the new Tundra 2 years ago. That redesign also brought a completely new infotainment system. At first, we were all amazed by the Tundra's massive 14-inch screen, but soon enough the first problems appeared. Different kinds of troubles occurred, but it mostly referred to connectivity features like smartphone integration services, such as Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Then the Tundra's infotainment system showed that voice controls are far from perfect. Phone call this way with voice commands. It was impossible to control the climate with the entire infotainment system showing all kinds of glitches and bugs, including random reboots every now and then. Toyota tried to address these issues and mostly managed to solve them. However, some of them are still there, and they're now part of the new Tacoma as well. Considering that it uses the same system in the 14-inch screen, we heard complaints about the display going black while driving and then recovering once placed into park mode. Moreover, even the digital instrument cluster showed some issues with the tire pressure monitor and its positioning on the screen.